Already lashing the Caribbean island of Martinique, Hurricane Maria, a powerful Category 4 storm, is now barreling towards Puerto Rico.
We are very worried.
Today in San Juan, a frantic scramble for supplies. Again, just days after Irma, Maria has rapidly intensified. The government now declaring a state of emergency, rationing basic provisions like water and baby formula.
There's no water anywhere. Can't find water, I can't find ice.
While Irma decimated islands like Barbuda, it only grazed Puerto Rico, but still knocked out electricity to 75% of the island. More than 60,000 customers still in the dark. This spree of storms exposing problems with its fragile power grid and crumbling infrastructure. Among the hardest hit areas by Irma, the coastal town of Loíza. Debris still piled on the street. Nancy Pizarro rode out Irma in her home when a tree fell through her roof. Now she's terrified of what Maria might bring. The island hasn't seen a Category 4 or 5 storm since 1932.
It's going to be a challenge.
Today, Puerto Rico's governor, Ricardo Rosselló, urged people in flood-prone areas to get out.
It's the difference between life and death. It's really that simple.
Puerto Rico was the safe haven for some 3,500 Irma evacuees from other Caribbean islands, some on dialysis still in this shelter. Others, like Gabriel Wilson from St. Thomas, are now desperately trying to find a flight to the U.S. mainland.
I'm thinking, how much more does my home have to take, you know?
Puerto Rico, the island that helped those devastated by Irma, now in Maria's direct path.
A hurricane warning is now in effect for the entire island. The National Weather Service here says it expects catastrophic winds. The government is preparing hundreds of shelters to house more than 100,000 evacuees if necessary.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Island of Dominica. It was devastated last night as Hurricane Maria hit it as a Category 5. Just an incredible, insane, powerful hurricane. What's unbelievable is Hurricane Maria went from a Category 1 to a Category 5 in 14 hours. The fastest a hurricane has ever done so. Are you serious? Well, Hurricane Maria left this trail of destruction as it hit the Caribbean island of Dominica as a Category 5 storm. And according to the governor there, every house, every home on the island roof was tore off, including his. Then it battered Guadalupe with powerful winds early this morning. Forecasters have now warned that the storm could leave some parts of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands uninhabitable for months. And Roosevelt Skerritt, the prime minister, that's who it was, of Dominica, wrote on his Facebook page that his roof was gone, that his home was flooded, and that he was at the complete mercy of the hurricane. After Hurricane Maria made landfall last night, a few minutes later, the politician reported that he had been rescued. Initial reports are of widespread devastation. Skerritt said in a later post, quote, "So far we've lost all what money can buy and replace. So far the winds have swept away the roofs of almost every person and I have spoken to or otherwise made contact with. The roof of my own official residence was among the first to go, and this apparently triggered an avalanche of torn away roofs in the city and the countryside. It was a devastating, massive storm." He warned that the airports and the seaports were likely to be shut down for days, and around 72,000 people live on the island of Dominica. And he said, "My focus now is in rescuing the trapped, securing the medical assistance for the injured. We will need help, my friend. We will need help of all kinds." NBC News meteorologist Bill Carnes highlighted that Hurricane Maria was one of the fastest intensifying hurricanes ever recorded in history. It blew up from a tropical storm into a major Category 5 in 14 14 hours. Dominica had very little time to prepare for this monster. It just didn't see it coming, Carnes said, and I fear that we will see during the daylight hours from Dominica and Guadalupe, they had little time to prepare for the strongest storm of their lifetime. With Maria producing maximum sustained winds of 160 miles an hour, hurricane warnings were in effect for Puerto Rico, the satellite islands around it, including the U.S. Virgin Islands. And now it will weaken briefly to a Category 4, but it will regain its strength, and it will be a hurricane Category 5 very shortly this morning, and will continue to head toward San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Our prayers are with all you folks in Dominica and in Guadalupe and in the other smaller islands, as well as Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. We know this is a monster coming your way. Our prayers are with you. Also, Hurricane Jose is just setting up there in the East Coast and just gaining steam and just setting there. It won't go either way. Something is going to go and then loop back, maybe go back and hit part of the East Coast. If it don't, it's going to just drift northwest till it hits Connecticut. It's just, we don't know what this thing's going to do, but it's bringing a lot of water with it and storm surge, and lower Manhattan could be in trouble. Boston could be in trouble. Cape Cod could be in trouble. We just don't know what it's going to do. And then we don't know what Maria's going to do after she's done with the islands. Some say it's going to turn away and leave the U.S. mainland alone, but we don't know for sure. And in the next 24 hours, we'll get a read on Maria. So pray for the folks that are being devastated by this, another massive apocalyptic event. Folks, this is day 29 of the 40-day solar eclipse warning. How much more warning will we get? Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Katia, Hurricane Maria, Hurricane Jose. Hurricane Lee is still out there. Earthquake in Mexico. Supervolcano will not settle down. 2 explosions on the sun. West Coast wildfires, including Canada. 2 rockets fired over the heads of the Japanese, and a detonation of a nuke in North Korea. Wars and rumors of wars. How much more? How much more of a warning will we get? Are you saved?
Maria has been upgraded. It is now a Category 5, as Allison was reporting, strengthening by the minute, and now you can see that. It was a 4 a couple minutes ago. It is now a Category 5. So you're now talking about sustained winds in the 150, 55 mile an hour range, and it is right now heading for the Caribbean and possibly the East Coast. Brett Adair is out front. He is live in Puerto Rico, meteorologist who has been tracking some of the strongest hurricanes and tornadoes ever, including Irma. You were there with Harvey. So, Brett, we are now just in the past few minutes, literally the past moment here, reporting that the storm has been upgraded to a Category 5. That's going to be the strongest storm in more than 85 years to hit where you are right now. What is your biggest fear?
Well, very concerned for the entire area. If you can see in the shot behind me, there's a lot of people here. We are in the Condado district of San Juan right now, and there are a lot of people that are still out tonight. We're hoping that people are going to really heed this evacuation order and really get their preparations finalized before this thing, comes close, beginning late tomorrow night into the day on Wednesday. Category 5 is an unfathomable storm. We just saw what a Category 5 will do to an island. We saw Barbuda. We saw St. Martin. We saw St. Thomas. Those areas were absolutely devastated by Irma. Maria's going to pack the same punch as it moves across Puerto Rico, unfortunately.
New forecast for extremely dangerous Hurricane Maria, a Category 5 storm that made landfall on the island of Dominica tonight. Let's get right to CNN's Pedram Javahiri. He is in the CNN Severe Weather Center, for us. You just got a new advisory from the National Hurricane Center. What can you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. They're saying some slight weakenings being noticed with the storm system. They have not dropped the wind speed on this, Don, because the hurricane reconnaissance craft has to fly into it. It is currently going over land, about to clear and come back over the Caribbean at this point. So they're waiting for the storm system to clear land before they can fly into it and get the latest observation. But I use that analogy of, say, a top on a table as it spins, and if it hits an imperfection, it begins to kind of wobble a little bit. And the storm kind of showing that right now as it runs into portions of Dominica. And I want to talk about this region as well, because this is one of the most mountainous islands across portions of Leeward Island. So you think about Barbuda, where Irma made landfall, not very mountainous whatsoever, completely flat. But in this region, we're talking about some areas having mountains go up as high as 4,700 feet. So that will certainly do tremendous damage to the storm system as it moves over this region. But of course, it clears it and goes back over very warm waters. So intensity, really not a concern as far as seeing it potentially drop. And then we think it could strengthen again beyond that. But 160 miles per hour, so a healthy Category 5 right now as it pushes over an area home to some 75,000 people at this hour. Really an incredible storm here. And you watch the track, we think this will skirt to the north and west, potentially make landfall around eastern Puerto Rico sometime early Wednesday afternoon, somewhere between a strong Category 4 or a Category 5. This will be the first time since the 1930s that Puerto Rico has been impacted by anything a Category 4 or greater. So certainly a big story across that region. And then you notice the track begins to shift. This is what we wanted to, of course, see for Irma during this entire duration. We never saw that.
The National Hurricane Center not waiting for the top of the hour for the intermediate advisory, instead saying we have seen enough to determine this is now a Category 5 hurricane. Dr. Navarro, as we're looking at this, they have seen enough to say and measured enough winds to realize, as they've been flying through this, there's a Category 5 hurricane about to make landfall on Dominica.
It's almost really hard to watch. You know, this storm is literally an hour or two away from bringing impacts, and we're seeing the wind speed come up here. The hurricane hunters are out there measuring the winds, and they found 160-mile-per-hour wind there in the northeastern eye wall. That's usually the strongest part where we expect to see those storms, and this system is just off the coast of Dominica. So, Chris, this is a devastating situation that we are watching here. This is the first time since 2007 that we've had two Category 5 storms in the same season. So this season just continues to produce very strong activity.
And how remarkable, too, that the two that we've seen happening so close together in time and so close together in proximity.
It's very rare. I'm not sure if it's unprecedented, but very rare that we're seeing two Category 5 systems coming into the Caribbean islands within 2 weeks of each other.